Welcome to the Hot Rod Hangout Podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Ashley.
And tonight we got a special guest, Tim Bluff with the Hot Iron Dust Up. What's going on, man?
Not too much. How are you?
Oh, just living a dream. So let's start with what got you into this crazy car obsession.
That's kind of a loaded question, but really, cars in general have been pretty much part of my life, pretty much since my earliest memory. Mostly to do with my older brother. He's more our guy of the family. My uncle, who I'm close to, owned an auto body shop for years when my brother worked. So as a kid and then through my teenage and 20, we'd always be at the shop tinkering with something. Mostly my brother. My brother painted cars, so he always had some project he was either doing for himself or for a customer. So that's pretty much what got me into and interested in the cars. I didn't start getting into it on my own and actually having my own project later just because of life. Joined the military, so I was overseas a lot, so didn't have a place to, start building hot rods or motorcycles until a little bit later in life. And then probably, 8 years ago, I got my first Model A, and I haven't really looked back since. Prior to that, I had a bunch of different projects. I had a couple other different hot rods, a pickup truck, an old motorcycle. But once I got my first, I hadn't looked back since. So.
Very cool. And thank you for your service as well.
Thank you.
So I see the pretty sweet Roadster that you got sitting back there. Currently, what is your favorite car that you own?
Probably the one you see back here. It's probably not the nicest car I own, but I put a lot of time and a lot of myself into it. It's made up of all different parts that I collected over several years. It's part Model A, part Model B, part Model T. So it's got a little bit of everything on it, kind of like a Frankenstein build, if you will. And I just originally bought this car to start building with my older brother. And unfortunately, he passed away. And really how I dealt with mourning him is I'd come out to my garage and work on my car, and I'd hear his voice in my head, like making fun of me because I was doing it wrong. And it really, really helped me kind of in a therapeutic way kind of deal with that loss. So for those reasons, that's probably my favorite car. But, they're all my favorite. So
yeah, we always say the one that starts, that's my favorite that day.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the car that got away? Whether you had an opportunity to buy something or you had something and somebody wanted it more than you, so you let it go and you were kicking yourself as they were leaving with it.
So that would be my F100. Prior to getting into the Model A's and this type of hot rod, I had always wanted an F100, a bump side, late 60s, early 70s F100. That was like on my wish list. So while on my last deployment years ago, during my downtime between missions, I would scroll Craigslist. And I was looking for something, I live up in New England, so a lot of cars that you find out here, a lot of them have rust, rot, and,
yep.
We don't, they don't preserve as nicely as they do out west or down south. So my plan was when I came home, I'd have to travel across the country. So if I found something like out west, I could either drive it or trailer it home or somehow. So I found a truck a guy was selling in Nevada, and I had to have it. I fell in love with the pictures. And it's funny because I ended up calling the guy from a satellite phone from Iraq so to talk to him about the truck, and I thought it was a scam at first. So I told him where I was, and he was like, "Are you kidding me?" So we talked a few times, emailed. He sent me videos of the truck. So and actually the best part about it is he, for a living, transported cars all over the country. So I
Perfect.
bought he transported it to like an hour away from my house. My brother ended up going and picking it up for me and drove it home. So it'd be here when I got home. So I came home from my deployment, did some work to it, got it going. And then fast forward a few years, I bought my house and ended up selling the truck because I felt like that was the right thing to do. I have two little ones, just bought a house. Like, I got to be responsible. And basically regretted it immediately after it left the driveway.
So I can definitely understand that, because when I bought my first house, I had a little bit of like a play toy mud truck. I lost my mind for a little while and decided I was going to play in the mud, and traded a classic C10 for it, or a square body C10, and then messed with it for a little while. And then whenever I bought my house, I was like, hey, I need down payment and clothing costs, so let me just sell this truck so I could get that. So I can understand the whole, responsibilities sometimes suck. Although I didn't miss that truck. When it left, I was excited, but that was a different story.
I didn't really get over that truck until I got my, I had a couple project cars after that, and then I got my first Model A, and that was when the nightmare stopped. But that was the one that I wished I kind of would have held on to, just because of the, there was a little bit of a cool story that with it was, it was a car that I like sought after for a long time. So, but you can't keep them all. You can't drive them all. You know what I mean?
No. So speaking of cars, unlimited budget, what are you building? What's the dream build?
Oh, I don't know. There's a few. Growing up, my favorite car, my wish list was the bump side F100, maybe a '66 Mustang or a Model A. Of course, the Model A's I have that I built, they're within a budget. Would love to build like a 34 coupe with like all the bells and whistles, a flat head, like, done right. Not in my garage with Harbor Freight tools, but something, I don't know if you follow the Rolling Bones, something built by them, or something that, something of that caliber, I guess, if I had an unlimited budget.
What is the current project? What do you got? What are you wrenching on right now?
Oh, I can show you. I guess guy over here. This is a 2829 AV8. So it's got a 41 flathead going in it, 39 trans. I'm building this. I'm hoping to have it ready for June. Actually, Memorial Day is my goal. But sometimes these projects take a lot longer than you think when you start them. So
you're preaching to the choir, bud.
Looks like it's a lot. It looks like it's more done than it is if you look at it, but it has all the little stuff. I got to run brake lines, fuel lines, electrical, all that stuff. The heavy lifting is pretty much done, but all the little stuff that adds up to a lot of time and money is what I got pretty much left on it.
My motor plate just got delivered right before we hopped on here, so
nice.
My build's not traditional. It is a Model A, but it's not anything traditional. So it's hidden air ride, 10.5 inches of kick up in the front, 16.5 in the back, full air ride hidden. So when it's laid out, you won't be able to see bags, you won't be able to see airlines, nothing like that. When it's aired up, it'll just look like a traditional hot rod. 6.5 inch chop, small block with tunnel ram, turbo 350, 20-inch mob steels. It's a 4-door sedan. So kind of everything that no one builds.
Yeah, but that's cool though. Try to be different.
and that was, the 4-door thing, I didn't realize how much wood was in them. So when we started taking it apart, and I was like, there's more wood than metal in this car. And so that was a little bit of a struggle, but had to go back a couple steps, but we're going forward now. I got the chassis welded. Just got to start putting motor and tranny and getting everything lined up. And as well as everybody, Model A's don't have a whole lot of foot room. And
well, you got some room with that. So.
Well, but with putting it on the ground, the transmission's going to be in the car with us. So, plus I'm putting the motor, like the top of the bell housing will be right at the top of the firewall because I want it as high as I can, and I don't have blower money. So that's the tunnel ram, and then getting it up there. And then eventually, if I can come across the blower that I can actually afford, then it'll look kind of like the low blow car that Vegas Rat Rods built.
Oh, yeah.
But it was kind of, when I set out to build that car, it was kind of, I'm going to build it my way and I'm going to like it type deal. And it's so far.
The way to be. When I got my first Model A, I had all these old guys that were like, when I started hopping it up, they're like, it's supposed to be. And it's like, well, it's my car. I'm going to do what I want. I do have stock, and I do keep completely bone stock. So whenever I run into one of those old guys and be, look, I have my stock Model A. Like, leave me alone. My other cars are the ones I'm hot rodding and doing what I want. I think you're going to be in this hobby. Like, it kind of rubs the way that those guys, they try to tell you how to build your car. It's like your hot rod is your.
And you kind of fall into it's easy. Traditional hot rods have kind of gotten easy to fall into a checklist. It has to be this. It has to be that. Well, it doesn't have to be anything. My dad has a 34 pickup truck, and I believe it's a Model A grill shell. And people go, "Oh, why doesn't it have a 32 grill shell?" And Dad's like, "Because it had that grill shell on it when it came here." Well, why doesn't it have a flathead? Because I drove it here, and it's got a small block in it. Like, I do give him crap about his hood. He has no hood sides, but he has a hood. And I'm like, you could take the hood off, but that's just, father-son ribbon. I don't really mean it. It's his truck if he wants to leave a hood on it, if he wanted to put fenders back on it. But my thought process for all of it is, it's your car. You're the one that's going to sit in it. You're the one that's going to have to answer questions if people ask questions. But let's not alienate somebody just because they don't want the traditional. And traditional in the term of like a checklist. It doesn't have to be a Bowling Brothers chassis. You don't have to have a Winner's quick change. You don't have to have a flathead. You don't have to have anything because I'll be honest with you, I really, at one point I was going to put a flathead in the car, but I thought that would be kind of poking the bear because the rest of the car isn't traditional. So let me not spend money on a motor that I don't know nothing about. Yeah. At least if the small block breaks, I can fix that. I know how to fix it. I've been in enough of them because I've broke them. A flathead, I took the four cylinder that was in it. I popped the head off of it. I looked at it and I went, oh, this is 100% different. And I'm like, probably not a good idea. But I can also see, I don't know if you're familiar with Ryan Gilmore, but he brought his Roadster, the Gilmore Special, to our show. And I walked around that car probably 18 times because it's cool. It was a Trog build. It's beautiful. It's just not for me. Yeah,
I got into the traditional stuff because aside of the hot rod hobby, I like the history of the old cars. So I try to keep stuff period correct as much as possible. But it also comes down with what I can find for parts and what I can afford for parts.
Yes.
So with the traditional, that can go both ways because if you take the time and go to some junkyards and swap meets, you can find all the parts you need for like a lot cheaper than like thumbing through like Speedway or Summit. But at the same time, some of the harder things to find now, especially because there's a lot of people that are into traditional hot rods, like the F1 steering boxes. Mm-hmm. Now people are they're charging, anywhere from $500 to $900 for one. Whereas 5 years ago, you could find that same box for like $100.
Mm-hmm.
So there's trade-offs there. But for me, it's like, whatever I find, that's what ends up dictating what the car's going to end up being like.
Yeah.
Hey, I'd like to have this, but this is what I found, so this is what's going in it. I don't have the luxury and an endless pot of gold to just buy what I want. So
yeah, and
whatever.
that's, my car is going to have traditional steering on it, cow steering on it, and I got kicked off the ham for a while because I got flamed, and it's like, dude, that's what they were building. If you look back at 40s and 50s hot rods, like, that's what they had. I'm not trying to, everything else on the car, I kind of pushed the envelope on, and now I have no choice but to use cow steering. Oh, that'll never work. Well, it worked fine. And then, I was talking to Zach Parks, and I'm like, well, I really want to do split wishbones. And he's like, well, why? And I was like, because I want it to be, when it's sitting at ride height, I want it to look more. And he's like, dude, they were using 4 bars back then. Don't be ashamed of whatever's going to make it easier for what you're doing. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And he sent me pictures of old school. And he's like, they'll say it's not. He goes, but they were doing whatever they had, whatever you had to do to make the car work. If you're building a 2829 and you come across a 3031 grill, that's what they had. That's what went on the car. It's not like you don't have to. And I get putting one back to being perfect, but none of our stuff is perfect. It's got to be mostly reliable. It's got to be cool to us and be different than the 18 other Model A's sedans that are going to be at a car show. That we don't really, I don't like the traditional car show. I'd rather go hang out. Our car show itself is called The Hangout. It's at Don Garlett's Drag Race Museum. We park in front of his garage, and there's no lines. You park however you want to park because it's like you're pulling up to hang out with Don Garlett's. It's hanging out. We're trying to mimic the 50s, 60s, 70s of, hey, I'm working on my car tonight, and 8 buddies show up and they bomb in your front yard and they park wherever they can fit, and y'all got an 18-pack of beer and some pizza and y'all work on a car. That's what we were trying to mimic. And because participation trophies or top 30 trophies, I don't go to car shows to win a trophy. Majority of the time, I don't want to win a trophy.
Yeah.
I want one person to come over and go, hey, that car's cool. Or a little kid to walk by and be like, what is that? I love taking, Ashley's got a 54 Chevy. I love going places in it. Because the stories, oh, I took my wife to ice cream, or some little kid. Oh, how old is that? What's older than me? What? Because they think we're old. It's it's cool.
Yeah. I have a 4-year-old son, actually, and he'll come out to the garage and he'll tell you that the one I'm building is his car. Oh. It's not my car. It's his. So he's the next generation of hot rodders in my family.
Awesome. Anyway, so. Does your wife participate?
No, a little bit. What's interesting about her is her dad. He was a tried and true hot rodder from when hot rodding was born. If he's since passed away, but he used to show me pictures of old flatheads he worked on. He built a couple hot rods over the years. Her brothers, he's got a couple cars and stuff. So she's very familiar with it. Both her dad and brother are into cars, so she knows how to tolerate it, I guess, if you will. So, and you know what? I'm out in the garage working on my car and not at a bar somewhere. So,
right. She knows where to find you.
Yeah. And she'll come out and hang out in the garage when I'm working on stuff or go for a ride in one of the cars and stuff. But it's kind of my thing, and she appreciates it and gets involved here and there. But that's about it. So
it's nice when they support your habits.
So she, at first she was, it took a little convincing because, a lot of people, they'll come into my garage or guys at work and they're like, like, oh, like they think I have all this money. They wonder where I have this money to do this. And I'm like, you don't realize, like, I sit here and scroll Marketplace and I buy parts and then I clean them and sell them. And if I want a new toy, I have to sell a toy. So, most of the hobby stays within the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So, I very rarely like have to dip into like, the money I make that I need to support my family to support my hobby. A lot of the times I hustle parts. It's almost like a part-time job to pay for the hobby. And, so there's been a few times where she's with me and we've driven, halfway across like the Northeast to buy a part for a couple $100, and then I sell it and quadruple my money like later that day. So she's like,
Yeah.
she kind of gets it. And if I throw her a few dollars to go shopping, then more likely to turn the blind eye and let me do what I want. So
Hence why there's a 70 Chevelle long bed in my shop right now, getting the motor pulled out of it. I bought the truck just for the motor for her car eventually, and the price he wanted for the whole truck, I was like, I could probably get that for the roller. So we'll bring the truck here. We're pulling the motor out of it. I'm gonna roll it back over. Ended up, one of my buddies was like, "Hey, I really want that truck," and I was like, "It's yours." And I'm gonna snatch the motor and trans out of it because eventually her car is gonna get a small block and a fuel injection unit and an automatic, because I want it something that she can walk out to, hit the key, and it's gonna start every time, and I don't have to worry about I flooded it or it's cold or it doesn't want to run. I'm like, that's 100% the way we do it. Is I have parts. I bought this car. Some of it left, some of it stayed, some of it went to the Model A, some of it, I bought parts when the Model A was going in a direction, but then something else changed, and now, that short water pump that I bought that's brand new, it's sitting on a shelf. I put it on Marketplace, and if someone wants it, they can come get it. If not, now her car has a spare water pump. It's
do the same thing. I'll buy stuff and then that I might not need, but I know is valuable to somebody, and then I'll use that to trade for what I need.
Yep.
Part of the hobby actually, traveling around picking parts and meeting people is, second to actually working on the cars is probably one of my favorite things about the hobby, is just meeting, different people, listening to their stories, looking at their builds. That's part of it. That's just as fun as sitting in the garage. It's like, hey, let's go on a road trip to a 5-hour road trip to buy this part that I've been looking for 2 years. It's a lot of fun, and like I said, you meet a lot of interesting people, and you learn a lot along the way.
And sometimes you drive down for a part and you come back with a completely different part.
Yes, or the wrong part. Actually, I just bought a part for my car that was the descriptions and the pictures. I didn't see it in person. The guy's like, "Hey, I'll ship it to you." It was cheap. It was like $20 or $30. So he shipped it to me. It got here today. It's the wrong part, but I'm sure I can find someone that needs it. So it is what it is. So.
Well, the reason that Ashley was vigorously shaking her head when you were talking about the 5-hour trip was I found a 32 frame when I was trying to build the 32 truck. And I was like, hey, we're going to go buy this frame because it was cheap. And the pictures, I don't know when he took the pictures, but they were not any time around the time that I was looking at the frame. And it was a roller. It was supposed to have a winner's quick change in it. It was supposed to have chrome wishbones. It was supposed to have all this chrome stuff. And we get down there and I'm like, he's like, yeah, that's the chassis. And I'm like, that's not the chassis, bud. And he's like, yeah. I was like, dude, you said it was powder coated. That's rusted. And he's like, oh no, it's got the whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, no, I don't really. But now I drove 5 hours. So I'm like, what else you got? And he's like, oh, I got this steering set up and I got this. And I was like, okay. So I called my dad up and I was like, hey, those single side racks that you really were thinking that would help your steering? He's like, yeah. I was like, I got one in my hand. What do you want to give for it? He told me. I was like, okay. I walked back in. I said, would you take this for it? He goes, yeah. I said, all right, I'll take that. And I'll take those shocks and I'll take this. I brought a 20-foot trailer 5 hours south for what could have fit in the back seat of, her car, but, it's a road trip.
Which made the trip worth your while.
We went and got some dinner and, all right, head back up north again, and it's some of those trips are funner than, just wanting to work on your car. Because a lot of times you got to go places and talk to people and you make friends. I mean, that was the big thing with the podcast is I always say, like, I have a shit ton of friends all over the country, the 14 listeners or whatever, but I know that if I'm anywhere near them, I can call them, or, if I have a Model A question, I can call Zach, or I can call Ryan, or, I can reach out. I mean, we were looking for a steering bolt for Ashley's 54, and I just said it on a podcast. Hey, I'm looking for this bolt. And Randy Jackson with the Gasser Garage, hey man, I got one of those. He's like, I don't use that crap front suspension. He's like, but I think I got one behind the garage. And I was like, okay. He's like, I'll take it out. What's your address? And I'm like, I gave him the address, and he's like, okay, it's on its way. And I'm like, what do I owe you? He's like, don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. When it come time for, hey, you can use a 70 Mopar box. I'm like, you got one? He's like, yeah, I got one. What do you want for it? This much? All right, cool. How much is it going to be to ship? This much. All right. Send him the money. Boom. It's at my door. He come to our show. His girlfriend drove from Oklahoma to Missouri, picked him up with a dragster, and they bombed down to Florida for our show. Obviously got longest distance traveled, but they made a road trip out of it. Yes, the cross member may have fell out, and they may have had 4x4s holding the cross member in when they pulled in, but we went to my buddy's shop. He welded the hitch back on, and back to Missouri they went. And it's good. It's a good time, and you meet people, and if you're on a road trip, you have somebody to reach out to. So tell me about the Hot Iron Dust Up.
Well, the Hot Iron Dust Up really started out as really just like any other show, as an idea. After going to many of the similar events up here in the Northeast, we have a few. Obviously, everybody knows the Race of Gentlemen. But there's also the Allentown Drags in Pennsylvania. There's an awesome event out in the Catskill Mountains, Rodtoberfest. Pine Tree Jamboree up in Maine, Northeast Vintage Drags up in Maine. To name a few that are within 5-6 hours driving distance for me. So, unfortunately, I don't have the luxury of just going on these road trips to go to shows multiple times a year. I got kids, work, all this other stuff. So I usually pick a couple a year I go to. And what I noticed is all these events, what's the common denominator is a lot of the people there are from Massachusetts. A good portion of the guys with cars, the guys racing, whatever, they're all from Massachusetts. So I asked them, why doesn't anybody have an event like this in Massachusetts? We're centrally located to all these events, and all the people going to these events are from Mass. And all the old school hot rodders, all the guys putting on these events, nobody could really give me a straight answer. So I'm like, what? I want to put on an event. And I started kind of doing some research, and I realized quickly why there isn't one in Massachusetts, is because you got to find the right venue. And I had found an old decommissioned airport in the town I live in, which would have been perfect. It had the old wooden, barnstormer style hangars. It just would have been perfect for a vintage car event. But the owner, little old lady, she's had gotten burnt a few times from people leasing her property, and she loved the idea, but was, really wasn't biting on it. And even if she did, the amount of red tape, permits, it would have took me years to get through all that with insurance and all this. So I kind of, the idea kind of fell to the wayside until I did a detail. So my day job, I'm a firefighter paramedic, and I picked up a detail at this place called 508 International, which is basically a big outdoor motorsports complex. Their claim to fame is their motocross track. They got a big 22-acre motocross track, but they do other events too. They do a couple different Jeep events, Jeep hill climbs, Jeep races, rally races, mountain bike races, Tough Mudders. The list goes on and on. So they have a lot of land, a lot of space. So I'm up there doing the detail, got to know the owners, and got to talking. And I said, hey, started showing them videos of the Race of Gentlemen, some of the other events. I was like, what are your thoughts about doing something like this? So he gave me his number. I ended up calling him, met him at the track. We walked around, and I explained to him some of the roadblocks that I had at other venues. And he's like, oh, I already have all that. He's like, I already have permits. I already have insurance. He goes, all we got to do is build a track and basically just get people here, and we'll do whatever you want, pretty much. Maybe not that, but
yeah,
but he was very accommodating, to say the least. So reached out to some of my other buddies that are into this hobby. Like you said, a lot of them were people I met from buying parts from. Mm-hmm. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about putting on this event. Would you come? Da, da, da. And they all were like, yeah, let's do it. One of my biggest supporters and helpers in all this is this kid, Jeff Betancourt. He has the Night Rollers Car Club. Reached out to him. He made a flyer. We put it on Facebook, and then it's just been kind of taken off. Originally, the plan wasn't to have it be, at least the first year, really big. I was expecting maybe 30 to maybe 50 cars if I was lucky. At this point, I have about 75 cars and motorcycles pre-registered to race. So it's looking like we're going to get a pretty decent turnout for the first year. And the owners of 508, they're looking at this as, potentially a yearly thing. So they're looking at year 3, year 4 to really blow up and become something that can make them some money. So, but this first year, we're just kind of, getting people there. They're actually in the process of making a track. The track going to be about, from start to finish, will probably be just over 500 feet, with, obviously another several hundred feet to slow down and stop. But there's plenty of room. We have a swap meet, car show. I have food trucks, a little bit of live music, a beer truck. So it's shaping up to be a good time. So as long as, knock on wood, the weather is on our side that weekend, yes. It should be pretty good. But it's 2 days, Father's Day weekend, June 14th, 15th. There is overnight parking, or other people call it camping, but the venue calls it overnight parking. Vendors and race participants, they can show up a day early on Friday to set up, test and tune their cars. Let's see, we got a bunch of other stuff planned too. About 3-4 miles up the road, we have a local brewery. So they're going to host an after-hours party on Saturday night. So we're going to do a cruise night over there.
Very cool.
Drink some beer, some more music. Everything is starting to fall into place. It's a little stressful because, again, it was, I wasn't anticipating the support that I've been getting from the community. So that adds a little bit of pressure, a little bit of work that I wasn't, I don't want to say I wasn't prepared for it, but I just wasn't expecting it the first year, So I guess it's not a bad problem to have. So we'll see how it goes. It should be a good time. So,
well, I can give you a switch that flipped in our heads. So going into it, we were kind of in the same boat you were in, and it was like, we don't know if there's going to be 10 cars. We don't know if there's going to be 500 cars. And that was the hardest thing, because we had to secure our own insurance and all of this stuff, and also keep in mind of the rules of the venue. And a light switch flipped in my head probably 2 weeks before the show. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have fun. And if I have fun, then everyone else should have fun. And if they don't have fun, oh well, that's on them, because we're going to go and it's going to be great. And literally everyone that came, 99.9 people came, had a really good time. But you also have to remember that 0.1%, you could give them a car, you could drive them everywhere, you could give them free food, and they're not going to be happy. They'll find something. So don't worry about them. Worry about you, and worry about the rest of your people, and it'll be a kick-ass time. Because that was, like I said, we were stressing, going to shows, trying to promote and trying to push and push and push, and like everything was just. And finally, we're just like, I can't do anymore. Like, I've done everything I possibly can, and we're just gonna go and we're gonna have a good time. And it turned out to be great, and no one really complained. You know, people gave us like constructive criticism, and some of it sank in, and others was like, nope, that's silly, I don't want to do that. And again, it's mine. So just kind of keep in mind, man, just the hobby itself is fun. So don't turn it into a job.
I'm not worried about like the hot rod community. I think everybody who's coming there to bring a car and to race, they're going to have fun because they're going to be with their boy. They're going to be getting to race it on some dirt. And, we're all going to have a blast. And that's really who I'm trying to cater the event to. Yes. Is, I set out to do this event. Like, everyone's like, oh, your event. I'm like, I don't like saying, hey, it's my event. This is like our event. So if you're coming here with a car to race, it's your event. I want you to come, and just like your car, we were talking about building cars, like build your car your way. Yeah. Like you want to put a 350 in it. You want to put a big blower on it. Like, do what makes you happy. I want people to come to my event or their event with that same concept. Mm-hmm. Just come and make the event however you want to be. If you want to, race your car down the strip until the tires fall off, then do it. Or if you want to baby it because your life savings is put into the motor, then you do you, and everybody will have fun. Yes. And what I like most about the event is the fact that it's on dirt. There's a lot of, with the exception of the Race of Gentlemen, which is on sand and on a beach with a beautiful beach and like one of the most iconic boardwalks in the country, like you're not going to beat that venue. So, but, a lot of the feedback I've gotten from a lot of the, guys that build, especially the older cars, is they're intimidated to go up to like the drag strips that are on like treated paper. They don't want to rip their rear ends off. Yeah. So having the dirt there to like soften is a little bit more, so they can actually go and have fun, and it kind of slows the race down a little bit, but that's not a bad thing. Like it's not about like being the fastest car. It's not about winning. It's more about just coming and you getting to like enjoy your hot rod or your vintage motorcycle, a little bit more than just driving it to the local car show or local cruise night. And, hang out with like-minded people, maybe buy some car parts for your next build, have a beer, listen to some music, and just basically, it's, hopefully it's a good time. I am trying to make it, fun for people who aren't into the cars too. So, to keep, the spectators happy, you have a couple other little things in the works to try to keep people engaged. I noticed that's with the exception of the Race of Gentlemen, a lot of these other events you go to, and it is, it's a lot of fun if you're there with a car, but like if you're just like someone off the street that, hey, I'm going to go check this out after you're there for an hour or two, there really isn't, much to do. So you leave. So I'm trying to find ways to like, think outside the box and like create an experience where even if you're not a hot rod guy or into cars and you're going to go and like want to stay and hang out and get an experience out of it. But again, this is the first year, and the event's probably going to take on a mind of its own, and there's probably going to be some element of the event that I'm not even thinking about right now that's just going to happen on its own, and that's probably going to be the coolest part of it.
And that was my next point, was it'll also change. So you'll see stuff because like I was really excited about some of the stuff that we were gonna do, and it didn't bomb, but it was like, okay, there's a better way to do it. And then other stuff that I thought was gonna be gimmicky was like, oh man, are you gonna do that again next year? And it's like, well, that happened by accident, but yeah, we'll bring it. Or also finding other stuff, because people will let you know what you're missing,
I have a feeling that the things that happen, there's going to be a lot of things that probably just happened that weekend
Yes.
by accident. I mean, the property is a very unique property. There's a lot of space. Like I said, there's the motocross track. There's all sorts of trails. So I can only imagine what, we got, 75 to 100, hot rod builders. We're all creative. We're going to find something to do that,
yes.
Somebody's going to think of something to do, and everyone's going to be like, "Holy shit, that's awesome!" And that's going to probably end up the highlight. But it should be fun. I mean, I'm trying to enjoy the process, but again, it is a little bit more work than I bargained for when I decided to do this. But it's also, it's also rewarding too. It's also, I've already been making even more friends in the community since I, launched the website, the Facebook page, the Instagram. So, like I said, only time will tell. June's about 10 weeks away. So we'll know in 10 weeks. We'll have to do this again. I can let you know how.
Unfortunately, you're gonna have to do it at least one more year, because I fly back from California from a 14-day road trip on the 25th of May. So we won't be able to circle back and get up there this time. So next year, keep it up.
That's the plan.
And like I said, as long as you go with the mindset, and I'm just speaking from ours, completely understand the whole you didn't know what you kind of don't know what you're getting into. I've been to thousands of car shows, and I was like, okay, you just call somebody up, say I want to have a car show. You have a car show, and everybody comes, and everybody has a good time, and everybody goes home. There's way more involved, and it was like I really like driving, so I was like, well, maybe this year will be a show, but maybe next year we'll just do like a cruise somewhere, and try to get a couple businesses on board and just do like a couple open houses like they do on the West Coast. And then we went to our show, and at the end of the day, I was like, oh, we could do this again. Like this wasn't as bad. It was just the stress of the first one. And once you get past that, just have a good time, and it'll work out. You got up in the Northeast, there's a lot of car stuff. So you'll get some good, and it's weird because all y'all are moving down here, but y'all don't drive your cars once you get down here. So
I have a few, there's a few registered racers that are from Florida. Right now I have of the 75 race entries, I have the farthest south is Florida. And then I have a couple guys coming down from Canada. And then basically everywhere in between. Of course, a majority of them are from Massachusetts, Connecticut, the New England states. But, a lot of people from, right outside the Northeast that are making a road trip. So that's exciting. I mean, good for them. I mean, I hope they come up here and they do it every year. The plan is, I picked the weekend. When I picked the weekend, I was looking at all the other car shows, and I didn't want to, step on anyone's toes. The guys that have been doing this and that came before me. I come from a background where you pay homage to those folks. So I'm like, I got to pick a weekend that's not anywhere near any of the other shows. We have a lot of shows of this type in the fall, late summer, early fall. And then we have the Northeast Vintage Drag, which is Memorial Day weekend. So I didn't want to be in July because it gets too hot. So I'm like, you know what? Father's Day. It's a perfect weekend. People could think, hey, it's Father's Day. Something to do with my dad if they're in the cars. And what I like about it is it's a good excuse. If you're married and have kids and you want to go to this car show, you can be like, well, honey, it's Father's Day. It's my day. I'm going to take and go play with our cars. And it's, it's a good alibi. So hopefully it ends up being a yearly tradition after this year, and hopefully, I'm sure I'm going to learn, and everyone who's involved with me on this is going to learn through the process, and then each year we'll just make it better. So
it'll be awesome. I love that you said it's too hot in June where you're at. I love that.
Well,
The temperature right now is what it's going to be in June where you're at.
well, I say that, but I like I said, I traveled a lot in the military, and I lived a long time. And if it wasn't for my wife, I'd probably be living in Texas now. But she wanted to raise our kids where she grew up, and she makes all the rules. So I'm up here where it's cold in the winter.
Yeah.
But it gets to, I know, some of these cars, they don't like that really hot, the hot days in July, trying to race them in the dirt, and that venue too it is called a dust up for a reason. But July and August, it can get really dry there, dusty. So I wanted to find a good weekend that was like, good weather-wise, didn't impose on the other shows, and hopefully I picked the right weekend. We'll see. So.
What is a show or event that you try to make every year?
Well, I'd have to say the Race of Gentlemen, or that's probably, if I had to pick one. I didn't actually get to make it this year, just because I had some family stuff come up unexpectedly that I had to deal with. And I actually entered my car and it got accepted. And I couldn't go. So it was kind of unfortunate. But that's usually, on my list of car shows that I want to make every year. Some of the newer events too, like I mentioned a few times in this podcast, like the Pine Tree Jamboree, the Northeast Vintage Drags.
Mm-hmm.
Those are, Northeast Vintage Drags, I think this is going to be their third year. I'm probably, definitely going to make it out there to support those guys, as well as Rodtoberfest, which is another vintage dirt drag event in Catskill Mountains, New York. And that one last year was probably one of my favorite events. I almost didn't go. It was the first year I went to it, and I almost didn't go. I heard about it through YouTube, and I was like, hey, that's only about 2 hours. And my car had some issues, so I was like, my car's not running right. I'm like, I'm not going to go. And then I decided last minute to make a road trip with my son. And as soon as I got there, I was like, you should have brought your car. So I had a blast. A lot of good people, met a lot of good guys. In fact, a lot of those guys are probably my big. That was probably one I'll definitely be going to as long as they have it. Just out of just to return the favor and return the support that they've been giving me. So,
is there a show or event that you've never been to that you'd like to get to?
Yeah, that's the race week at the Flats, Bonneville. So, I think that's every hot rodder's dream to get out there. So,
yeah, I don't want to race on the salt, but I definitely want to drive on it.
Yeah. I don't know if my cars wouldn't, the cars that go to race on the salt. They're like, they're like the creme of the, but I wouldn't. It's definitely on my bucket list to make it out there one of these years. So maybe when my kids get a little bit older and I get a little bit extra money. So, but
what's that extra money stuff? I don't know. I don't speak that.
I just.
You can dream.
Yeah,
I don't have extra money. I just have car fund. The car fund gets a little bit bigger for a minute, and then you find something that you got to go buy or that you want.
Yeah.
So what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody that's trying to get into the car world? Whether you want to go traditional, whether you want to go in general, just one piece of advice that sticks out in your head to give somebody that's new to this.
Well, my advice is, I want to use this piece of advice, but at the same time I don't go out and buy something on a whim. But sometimes buying things on a whim actually can be fun. But before I bought my first Model A, I actually had found one for sale. I was going to buy, went and talked to the guy. I was like, I'm going to come back in a couple of days with the money. And in the meantime, I looked at another Model A, and the old guy that had it for sale, he had already sold it. So I told him, I was like, oh, that's all right. I found one. And he actually talked me out of buying it. And he goes, before you buy that, he's like, why don't you just come hang out with me for a while and I'll teach you, like, you know, everything I know about, Model A's and these types of cars. And for about a year, that's what I did. I went there, and this guy was like, in his late 80s, early 90s. So like he traded my, ability to like do some heavy lifting and some stuff that he can't do for like his like 60 years of knowledge.
Yes.
Like Ford flat. After about a year, he found me a car that I got into. And so by the time I got into it, I already knew kind of what I was doing. So that would be my advice, is just to kind of like do your homework. Yes. And do your research, because this hobby can be, mistakes are very expensive. So if you buy a lemon or buy something, then you realize, shit, like I can't do what I envisioned. So the good thing is nowadays with YouTube and social media, like a lot of the stuff that I build, that's how I've learned how to do it. I'll watch like, Iron Trap Garage, This Old Hot Rod. I watch all these YouTube channels. Hey, I got to figure out how to do like this on my front end, and I'll like skim through their videos. Oh, there it is, and I'll watch it, and I'll take a little bit of bits and pieces from each one of those outlets, and I'll try to figure out how to get the job done. So that's one thing the newcomers to this hobby have, that like guys that did this like, even 20 years ago, they'd have to meet they'd have their weekly meetings in their garages, and they'd all figure it out collectively. Now you can just go on your phone and search for it, and there's 10 guys showing you how to. So that would be my advice. Just like do your research, do your homework, go to some car shows, talk to some old timers, and try to learn from their mistakes before you go out and like and purchase something. Outside of that, I mean, just have fun. Like, remember, this is supposed to be something you do for fun. So if it's not fun, then get rid of it and find something else. So
I agree, but also put it in project timeout for a week before you just get rid of it. Because my Model A has been in project jail a couple of times, and like I just put it over in the corner, and I have to walk by it every day. And then finally I was just like, okay, I can roll it back out to where I can get all the way around it, and we're going to start working on it again. And then something else would irritate me, and I would put it on rollers, and I'd roll it to the corner, and it would just be over there enjoying itself. And eventually, you just, because a lot of times, I mean, I seen a meme the other day, and it was, for as much as I hate cars, I really love cars. And it was like, that's it. Yeah, like, if you don't cuss at your project, you're probably not passionate enough to do it,
My favorite thing when it comes to hot rods, and I actually pick up my wife, and you've probably seen this one. It's a couple laying in bed, and the guy has his back to the wife, and there's a little bubble over her, and it says, I bet you he's having an affair. He must be thinking about another girl. And the bubble over his head is like, it's got spark. It's got compression. It's got fuel. Why won't the fucking thing start?
Pretty much.
So that's why I literally be like laying there in bed awake, and she'll be like, "What are you thinking about?" And I'm like, "I'm trying to figure out how to like hook my steering up the right way. That's not going to interfere with freaking, my split wishbones or whatever it is I'm working on in the car." And she'll just be like, she'll roll her eyes at me or whatnot, and she's like, "You're obsessed." And I'm like, I am. It's like, It's almost like having a drug addiction in these old cars. But, I'd like to say they're not as expensive as drug addictions, because they are, but they're better for your health. So.
Yes. My dad told me that, or my dad has always said, like, get your kids into cars so they can't afford a drug addiction.
I say the same thing. Growing up, my brother and I were into motocross, and I got my nephews all into it too, And it keeps them out of trouble, because if you're buying a toy like a dirt bike or a car or whatever, you don't have money to do much else. No. And you're out on the weekends doing that and not doing stupid shit. So, I say the same thing. I bought actually, I don't know if you see in the background, I have a little P50 that I just got for my 4-year-old son. So he's anxious to get out and ride it. I just got to get him a helmet.
Awesome. So before we get out of here, is there anybody that you want to shout out, give some thanks to, whether it's for the show or whether, the knowledge or whatever?
I'll give a couple shout outs for the show. I think I mentioned him earlier, Jeff Betancourt of Night Rollers Car Club. He's been a huge resource in trying to organize the event. He's the mastermind behind some of the visual aspects of the event, like the flyers. He's been, listens to me when I vent about stuff. I'm like, some all the times, like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? He always has some good advice and sheds a lot of light that's been extremely helpful. The other guy is Trike Lee Racing, Lee out of New York. He's a flathead 45 Harley Davidson guy. He's been a huge help as well, organizing the motorcycle side of the event. He's been getting all the old flatheads to register to race, so we're going to have a pretty decent turnout for old school motorcycles, which is awesome. And I've already plugged them too, but the folks that put on Rodtoberfest, those guys too have been huge supporters of the advice, some insight. Millworks Hot Rod, Old Yankee Speed, those guys, Matt Firestone. All these guys are just, have reached out. I've reached out to them in trying to kind of figuring stuff out for the event, and they've all been great resources and a lot of help. So many thanks to them. So,
all right, babe. So we're not really doing anything until my big road trip coming up, but let's go ahead and we want to give our shout outs. So make sure you go check out Why Not Fab on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And go take a look at Throttle Addict and use the code word HOTROD for 15% off. Go show Johnny Jalopy some love. Facebook, YouTube, JohnnyJalopy.com. And, of course, huge shout-out to Low Income Clothing, Photos, Bromagam Media. Go check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure you show Wrenchin' for the Future some love on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And don't forget to visit Ty Blends from Top Notch Barber Studio. You can see him on Instagram or book an appointment at TyBlends1Booksy.com. All right. And we want to say thank you again, Tim, for coming on with us. Till next time, guys, get out and drive your shit. See ya. Later.